Welcome to The Magnetic Voice, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel, a show where speakers and singers learn how to be more magnetic and align their voices to the divine within. Today, episode 41, Mother May I. And now your host, Monique McDonald.
Hello and welcome to the Magnetic Voice podcast. My name is Monique McDonald and I am here with Shannon Kropf. Hey, Shannon.
Hi, Monique. It's great to be with you here today.
So excited to be here today. Can you believe it's May already?
You know, I don't know. Ever since COVID, my sensing of time passing is just
I know. It seems to be flying by.
Hysterical. I either think that it's 2 years ago or I can't believe it's May. And so I'm laughing at myself.
Someone told me that as you get older, time does strange things and flies by much faster.
My dad used to tell me that. And I was like,
right?
Yeah. No, he was right.
Well, and as we know, last week was Mother's Day.
Yes.
So this is an interesting month for me because for those listeners who don't know, my mother was my everything.
With a capital E and an underline and an exclamation point.
Absolutely. My voice teacher, my best friend, the person that believes in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. And I was thinking about, being her child and what it was like growing up and I was an only child, so I didn't have all that many options when it came to friends.
Right.
And most of the games that I played, I had to either play with myself, so pretend was a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Or Mother May I, which was something that I loved to play with my best friend because, of course, I liked bossing her around.
Well, yeah, of course.
And I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking about how her name was Vonda, and she's now a well-renowned doctor.
Oh, wow.
And but when we were growing up, we loved to pretend, and the whole idea of Mother May I is you have to you give sort of commands, and then for example, take 2 steps forward, right? But whoever is taking the action has to remember to say, Mother, may I?
Right.
Or they don't get to move, or they go to the back of the line. And we would sort of switch off who Mother was, right?
Sure.
But it just sort of brought up for me what a cool game it was. And what it taught was this being in the flow of that ebb and flow of moving, not moving, leading, following, right?
Right.
It taught us all of those and also how to be respectful of the one who was the leader and being able to give stage, right?
Right.
in our terms, right? So
yes.
Whoever's speaking has the stage or the mic. And if you're if you're on stage with them, you just sort of hold space, but allow the other person to shine.
Right.
And that ebb and flow and knowing when to ebb and when to flow and tuning into it, of course, then started to get me to thinking to Mother Nature and tuning in to Mother Nature and how how our nothing is as powerful as water. Do you
True.
see my train here? Like mother and then womb, we're already, we breathe underwater.
Right.
We know how to, isn't that strange?
It's so strange.
And then, and we're made up of 60% water, 60 to 70% water.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole idea of water being the softest, most yielding thing, but also the most powerful thing, like
Absolutely.
the ocean and the kind of damage it can do, tsunamis and stuff like that.
Yes.
And so then I started thinking about this whole idea of really tuning into that flow. Often when I'm working with clients and talking about the breath, I say breath moves like water.
Mm-hmm.
It moves in waves. And so knowing how to catch the wave, knowing how to be still and feel that motion or energy starting to move within us. And checking in, Mother, may I? Checking in with that energy before we start to move, before we start to do things in our lives, right? So often, especially these days, we're just in action all the time, moving, all the time. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that and how you got 30 minutes to float in your pool.
And that was the highlight of April. I wish I was kidding, but that really is how my life is these days, because as we've talked about on previous episodes, I'm kind of on this new journey of whatever's happening with me professionally. Being an entrepreneur is really hard work. And I've always been an entrepreneur beside my full-time job with that. But now that is gone. And so I'm now creating my own wealth and figuring out how to do that without the support system of, that. So the point that I'm getting at, I think, is we can get so caught up in the idea of manifesting that we're just like manifesting dervishes, just, ooh, yes, manifest. And sometimes we can point our energy to the wrong things because we haven't said, Mother, may I? Like, this would be a great idea. Yeah, you're right. But it's not the right time. There's other answers than yes and then no. There's wait. There's yes, but. So there's all these sort of factors.
Yet. That's right.
Not yet, exactly.
Not yet.
And so there's all these factors in that ebb and flow that's not necessarily just, I think this is a good time to do this, but really tapping into that higher self and the divine energy of that.
Yes, absolutely. And there is something about, one of my favorite things to do is float.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's especially challenging when you're floating in an ocean.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you have to watch for the waves.
Yes.
And make sure you can see them coming.
And also make sure you don't get carried off, right?
That's right.
You have to be aware of your position amongst the waves. That's
right. And then to just surrender to the waves and let yourself be carried off.
Yes.
And this is what I wanted to discuss today. These moments where we need to just be still and wait.
Mm-hmm.
And then when to just let the water take us. Let the flow take us, even if we don't know exactly where we're going.
Sure. Yeah.
But to take that moment to check in with our nature, our divine nature, or Mother Nature. I feel like because Mother's Day is in May and so many things are blooming, and it's a time people are getting married, it's a time for marriage. It's a time for partnership, and creation is in rare form.
Yes.
Just magnificent for all of us to see. And how just checking in with our marriage of the human and the divine, our own partnerships, when to where are we in the cycle, right, of the ebb and flow?
Yeah.
Is it time to be just surrendering and flowing? And is it time to wait and bide our time as the tide does, where it's sort of filling itself up before the wave moves onto the shore?
Yeah.
And to really feel that energy, because we are so much water. That is a real scientific thing. And the other thing that I was thinking, and I looked it up, we are 60 to 70% water, but the earth is also 70% water.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
That's like the divine symmetry.
Yes. That's what I was thinking, So many of us use water to calm. I don't know about you, but when things, and you've got your swimming pool in the backyard.
I've got a swimming pool and I got a great big bathtub. So between the two of those, I'm set. I can calm myself.
That's right. Or, drinking a cup of tea. There's so many people that water is just the moment to stop and give yourself a little nurturing, a little loving up, and to really start waiting for those moments. I always, when I talk to singers and speakers about the moment before we speak or sing, right? I like to call it that moment of suspension, where you're neither inhaling or exhaling. That's that moment, right?
Yeah.
Before, when you're body surfing and you're just sort of waiting. You can feel, right? The waves sort of pulling
you back.
Pulling you back. And then if you go too soon, you're going to be crashed.
Yes.
The wave is going to crash over your head. Or if you wait too long, you missed it.
Right.
And that there is an innate feeling, an innate knowing of when it's not a calculation, right? It's not a mind thing.
There's no algorithm.
Exactly. No algorithm to tell us when to go.
Yes.
It's a feeling thing. And bringing ourselves to those moments and recognizing them. To just really check in. So before you're about to do any action, we are so on automatic.
Oh, yeah.
The bell rings and we don't think. We pick up the phone. We don't think, wow, do I really want to talk to anybody right now? Like, we forget that we get to choose.
Right. That's true.
Right?
Yes.
Or, the email comes in and we seem to be a little bit easier with emails and texts, but some of us aren't. Some of us really just, we're in reaction mode all the time. I was talking to a friend last night and we were having this conversation about depression, and he was describing himself as depressed. And I just asked the question, I said, is it that you're depressed? Or is it that you're empty? There's nothing to do because, we both have suffered from depression. It's a conversation we have because once the depression becomes a habit.
Yes. 100%.
That we fall into, especially if we're grieving or, life is doing what life does.
Right.
And we're in an ebb rather than a flow.
Right.
And we just sort of talked about the fact that our human condition right now is so full of trauma.
Oh, God. It's incredible.
It's in the news. It's social media. We just finished with a pandemic. Now it's a war.
Yep.
It's like our bodies and our minds are so taken with all of this trauma around us and thinking about it and worrying about it that when it's gone, even for just a moment, and we're having a moment of peace, are we calling that depression? Because we don't even recognize peace anymore.
Right. That's a deep, deep well. Yeah,
it's something that I just, that I do a lot of meditating and that whole idea of being still, it is even more important now in the time in which we live.
Yeah.
Practicing the stillness. I used to call it, when I was working with singers or speakers, when I work with singers or speakers about it, like really enjoying that moment of suspension before, right? That moment between the inhale and the exhale, that moment between the ebb and the flow, that moment of, Mother, may I? And then listening.
Right.
Right? When to speak and when to listen. Some of us, it's hard to just listen. Be still, listen. Do not give advice. Do not try to coach. That's for me. That's for Monique. Don't try to fix it. Just listen. And to know that when it's time to speak, you've checked in.
Right.
So that we're not just speaking to fill the space. That was something my grandmother was amazing at.
Yeah.
My darling grandmother, she was the wife of a preacher, and that was her job, to fill the empty space so everybody felt comfortable,
Right.
And so many of us have been taught, don't let there be any kind of lull in the conversation. We're on a podcast. We're on a podcast, for God's sake. Don't let there be any dead air, And that's how she operated. So she would just talk and a lot of the times I'd listen to what she was saying, and it was rarely anything. It was like filler time.
Absolutely. Yes.
Bless her heart. But I'll tell you what, you certainly felt loved up in her presence.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I remember towards the end of her life, I would sit with her, and she was suffering from dementia.
Oh.
And she would talk and talk and talk, as, that was my grandma. So, and then there would be these moments of silence. And we would just look at each other. And I swear that was some of the most precious time that I spent with her. Because I was just experiencing her presence.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts for the day. Checking in with Mother Nature, with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoying those moments between the inhale and the exhale, between the ebb and flow, being still and experiencing the presence, so that when we are speaking to each other, we're in tune.
Yeah.
When we're taking action, we know that it is inspired action, and that the divine Mother Nature is with us, and we're catching the wave of energy.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have a million things I could say right now, but I just have to let it sit. You've got me thinking about lots of stuff, though.
Well, I'm so glad. That's what we're here for. And for our darling listeners out there, if you've ever always wanted to achieve charismatic communication, understanding the ebb and flow, how to flow into the life of your dreams, but you don't have a mentor who can take your hand and walk you every step of the way, please go to themagneticvoice.com and click on Transform with Monique to see if any of our programs are a good match for you, and just so that I can see and hear and experience you. I look forward to meeting you all. Shall we go in a meditation?
Definitely.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, here we are together, breath to breath, heart to heart, opening your mind and soul and body and spirit to the ebb and flow of your breath. Releasing and letting go as you inhale, and gently exhaling and just riding the wave of your exhale right to the end. Then release anything that tightened in that journey, and inhale into the deepest part of you, opening and receiving the inhale, pausing for a moment full of the life force, then gently exhaling again and riding that wave of the exhale to the shore. And as you continue to inhale and exhale, allowing everything within you to become liquid, soft, yielding like water. Feel yourself flexible, flowing, moving without effort. Feel your insides just releasing and allowing. Feel that deep sense of belonging everywhere. Tune in to the part of you that is Mother's nature, the part of you that is creating, that is leading as well as following, that is allowing all of you to flow into the greatest self that is always present. Feel all the little worries and concerns and pains and sufferings to just melt into this flow, allowing yourself to just be. Explore that moment of suspension between the inhale and the exhale, where you are still, that moment that is pregnant with the life force, pregnant with possibility, pregnant with power. The power of the entire ocean, the power of the source of all there is. Feel it. Feel it moving through you now. Know that this is where you can go and checking in with the most powerful energy in the universe. Before you speak, before you move, checking in and knowing that you are supported, just like when you float on the water. The entire universe is holding you up, blessing you and supporting you. We are so grateful for the knowledge and understanding of the privilege of being able to tune in to the powerful universe with every breath. And for this and so much more, we say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so it is.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Magnetic Voice here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Magnetic Voice is copyright 2022 Monique McDonald, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Kropf and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, We would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.